Hi, my love. Welcome to the Gemma Hanley podcast. My name is Gemma. I'm your host. This is the space where I have honest conversations about overcoming anxiety and overwhelm so that you can calm your nervous system and feel really confident and happy and calm from within yourself. Along the way, I share my own stories of holistically healing 23 years of anxiety and depression myself. And so if you're a woman seeking answers to perfectionism, people-pleasing, burnout, resistance, you may love, you're in the right place. Let's do it. Let's begin. And before we begin, I want to pay my respects and acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land upon which I am recording from, which is the Gubbi Gubbi tribe. And I want to extend that acknowledgement to their elders, past, present, and emerging, as well as anybody of Indigenous or Torres Strait Islander heritage watching this replay. Hello, gorgeous women, and welcome back to the Gemma Hanley podcast. I am Gemma, your host, and today I have an extremely special woman joining me. We're doing something a little bit different. It's the first time I've done this. I have one of my clients here by the name of Claire. Welcome, beautiful.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. Feels pretty special.
Yeah, it really does. And feels fitting that you're one of the first clients, I think, that I give this space to and broaden this space of the podcast to share some stories of, the women who are doing the work. And yeah, just give space for you to share your wisdom because you have so much of it. Some of the things that, are undeniable in terms of your qualities is you are so, so brilliant at being honest about what is coming up for you or what you're struggling with whilst you're in the mess. And, just letting it all be out there without judging yourself. And I know internally sometimes it can feel like something different is happening, but you're always so forthcoming with what it is that you're finding hard, what it is that you don't understand. It's confusing you, it's frustrating you. We've coined the term, me and some of my clients, foul as how it feels when we're in those scenarios of like, what is going on? And, if there's been times where you're like, oh, I can see I'm really wanting to like control this person so that I feel more certain and things feel more predictable, or this emotion is coming up and I'm really wanting to numb it. Yeah, it's an incredible quality that you have, and I think a massive testament for all of the results that you've created in your life as well. So I can remember also sitting at my desk in Brisbane before we started working together and reading an email from you where you were like, oh, I'm just not that sure that this is what I need. And I was so sure and I was so confident that I could help you.
Yeah.
And of course, like really wanted you to honor your truth. And so, we got on a call and we were able to chat about what it was that was happening in your life at your time and at that time. And I feel like that's a great place to start this conversation, just to bring the listener back to that point in your journey and in your story of, what was happening in your life when we connected.
Yeah, absolutely. And actually, when you just said that, it's such a great example of how much patience you have for sort of letting us come to the point of being ready to work through some of this stuff. So even though you might see that, yes, this is stuff you really could be gaining value from, you don't really push that. You just let us find our way to it. So that's been really good. But yeah, when I first came to you, it was actually because I was working with Dr. Olivia Lessler. I was seeing her as a patient, and I was struggling with CFS, so chronic fatigue syndrome, for I think about 6 years at that stage. And I'd exhausted so many different, doctors, nutritionists, rheumatologists, like every possible thing. And I wasn't really getting anywhere with it. So she came to the point of suggesting that I work with you, or that I look into working with someone who was going to help me with nervous system work, basically. Learning how to calm my nervous system to help with the CFS cycle of, symptoms, and then that constant fatigue and everything. So yeah, so I came to see you for CFS.
Yeah, and what I saw that what you were looking for and what you were hoping to find was something to supplement. You had the physical body support and live on your team helping you with that, but to complement with that the emotional body support so that you could really reap the benefits of everything you were doing to support your body physically so that the nervous system could actually calm down and you could, yeah, feel the benefits as well as putting in all the effort.
Yes,
Which is so frustrating.
absolutely. Yeah, like the diet and sleep and all these other factors were so important, but it did feel like a missing piece to the
Mhm,
puzzle, nervous
mhm.
system. It felt like there was something going on in my body and it wasn't resting. It wasn't getting to a point of rest or anything. Yeah.
Yeah. And on that something going on in your body,
Mhm.
because I actually went back and had a quick look at, our initial session notes. Can you
Oh,
remember what else felt relevant for you that you were wanting to work on and improve at that time as well? Because you already had like these little suspicions about what might be causing that stress in the body.
oh, did I? Yeah, gosh, I don't actually remember what I like knew about, but it might have been around like people pleasing and or sort of I don't know, relationships and things.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, was it
definitely
relationships? Yeah.
relationships. Yeah.
Oh, I think maybe definitely like challenging family relationships as well, or things
Mhm.
like that. Yeah. But I do remember that didn't seem as big a part of it as I thought it would be.
Yeah.
And like, if you had told me then, well, everything we were going to work on in the last 2 years, I would not have believed you, or maybe even not been like, okay, let's do it.
Yeah, yeah.
Or even thought I needed it too.
Right. And I think this is one of the biggest value points of, whether it's a coach or whoever it is that we have on our team, is that they know a lot more and are able to future pace where we
Yeah.
need to go than what we do. And that's where, for me, I'm so big on engaging coaches or people in my life to support me that know things that I don't know.
Yes. Yes.
I'm not that interested in paying for support to just learn more of what I've already heard or more of what I've already understood. And yeah,
Yeah.
part of that is that we don't know what it's going to look like. And I think for a lot of women, particularly with their inner work, that can feel really scary because what
Mhm.
part of what they have come up is like, oh my gosh, like, am I going to have to completely pull apart my life and deconstruct my life? And what am I going to have to let go of? And what am I going to have to change? And, is anything going to be able to stay, whether it's the relationship or the career or, where they're living or all these, if there's a sport or a hobby that they're really into. Did that come up for you?
Well, I think one of the things that I just thought of that came up, which is sort of different to what you're saying, but is actually I think when I think about all of that stuff that I needed to work through, a little bit of like ego and stuff comes up because at that stage of my life it's like, oh, if I need to do this work, does that mean I've been doing it wrong this whole time? Like,
Yeah.
does that mean I've been living this life that, where I haven't got it figured out or I haven't been doing it well? And so to get past that little hiccup first, I think it was important
Yeah.
because it doesn't mean I was doing it wrong. You know what I mean? It was just another stage in growth and in learning, I think.
I love that point because it's such a protective mechanism that can pop up when we are feeling that egoic voice. And yeah, one of the first things that we do need to be willing to realize is maybe there is another way. Maybe I don't have all of the answers. And with that comes the uncertainty and the unknown. Because if we're right and we know everything and we're perfect,
Yeah.
that is quite certain. It's quite known.
Yeah, yeah, definitely perfectionism played a big role for me.
Yeah.
And absolutely, at that time, I was 100% living in my head,
Mhm.
logically analyzing, like understanding things, organizing things, and not living at all in my body.
Yeah. Yeah. Are you open to sharing what perfectionism or people pleasing looked like examples at that time?
Yeah, well, I mean, I often think of work because, I've always done jobs that I really enjoyed, so that's great, but I've really thrived at them. And in many ways, I think it's because of how good a people pleaser I've been.
Mm,
I've always um just wanted to do well and please everyone, and especially like a boss or a mentor, or do the best I can for them. And I actually never knew that was an issue. I I almost thought that was just normal. But what happened was when I got sick, all of a sudden it became really difficult to keep pleasing everyone because
mm.
I simply was too sick. I couldn't do all those things that I thought I needed to do to make people happy and please them, and especially work wise. I
Yeah.
couldn't show up at my work in the same way because I physically couldn't.
Yeah, which has been really interesting, and what we've explored in coaching around that too, where as your health has improved, some of the conversations we've been having is, oh, it's still the people pleasing still shows up in this way, or the perfectionism still shows up in this way. Now that I'm back living life again, how do we go even deeper into looking at and healing and changing some of these subconscious patterns as well? I can remember one of the conversations we had around, if you were needing to take a day off, or if you were
Mm,
showing up to work and maybe, you didn't feel happy, or you didn't feel like you're having the time of your life, what was the impact that like was flowing onto other people? And instead of going into that pattern of pretending to be someone you're not and being, all happy, all upbeat, bright and bubbly, really actually finding out and figuring out how you can be exactly who you are in those moments,
mm,
and allow environments to shift around you without needing to change them, as well. What's that been like
yeah.
for you?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, that's bringing up that when, yeah, some of the days I've gone to work and not felt great, like you said, it was actually like that pressure putting on myself to try and be, yeah, happy and bright to people, and really polite and friendly. It doubled down on the not feeling well. It made me feel even worse in that time. And it
Mm,
was almost like a conflict as well, because even as I was starting to move away from so much people pleasing, it's initially hugely uncomfortable, to not, be overly friendly or overly polite or overly jumping in to do extra tasks and things
mm,
like that. So then the discomfort also made me feel not great at first. At first, I really had to sort of like get through that. And I had to also test it out. Like I really had to sort of test it out. And when I was finally able to have moments then when, okay, noticing I'm feeling really sick, I'm not at my best. Maybe I could just tell my coworker,
yeah.
that I'm not in my prime today. I'm feeling a little off, just so you know.
Mm,
And then actually following through and doing that, and then seeing like what happened. So all those fears of what that meant, or what that other person would view that as, or what would happen if I did that, could be sort of dispelled, because
yeah.
all of a sudden I have data that, oh, my coworker was actually like, oh, that's okay, thanks, like no worries, I can do this for you if you want, or like, or let me know if you need anything, or there was just that support and help there. And none of the, they thought I'm a bad employee, or they don't think I'm good at my job, or none of that actually happened.
Yeah, which then begins to build the belief, oh, I can use my voice and I can speak up. And, something else I recall that we worked through as well as one of your last symptoms that was still hanging around was the sore throat. And so we were looking at, okay, subconsciously and in the emotional body, where is it that maybe you're holding back from being you? Like asking for what you need, or sharing what's real for you, or sugarcoating things, or sweeping things under the rug, as
Yeah.
well.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's still there a tiny bit. Like I'm
Mm.
still working through the last little bits of that. And I mean, I say last little bits. I don't think the work itself will ever be done. Like there's going to be endless growth and new layers to uncover. But yeah, I think as well because I've definitely learned to feel so much more free to be myself in a lot of different contexts. And yet there's still going to be times when, I don't know, when you're in a situation where it's the hardest to be yourself,
Mm-hmm.
you're faced with something
Absolutely.
that's
Yeah.
really hard to speak up in, or, actually there will be bad consequences, sort of, or that person won't like it, or your relationship with that person might actually change because you're truly being yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. I can't wait to dig into more of all of this as well. And I love what you said too around the throat and how, that's there a little bit still. And,
Mm.
there probably will always be something. One of the other beautiful women inside our coaching program, Reveal and Rise, she asked me a question the other week and she said, how is it that you healed from depression for good? Because I seem to just have periods where it's better, but then there's times where I'm not that far away from it. And one of the things that I got to share with her is, well, I've healed from depression so long as I live a life that is honest and true for me, right? Like I know that if I went and worked in a job purely because the money was good, but it was like not in alignment with my values, I would become depressed. If I went and lived somewhere cold, or if I was still living in Melbourne, I'd probably feel depressed because I'd grown beyond like that being a values alignment for me too. Um, and, if I had have settled for a relationship because, I was heading towards my late 30s and I want to have a family and I bought into fear. And then, yeah, I settled for a relationship that was like mostly good, like,
Mm.
close enough. Then I would be in battle and conflict with myself all of the time, even just to, 10 or 20%. And so, it really is. I believe that we all have these. I've heard them spoken of before as like tells. Signals is one of the words that I use, but there are physical symptoms or emotional states that will be more familiar to us as an individual and more consistent as the messenger, like as the signal. Oh, there's a conversation to be had somewhere, or oh, you're living out of alignment with your values somewhere. Or sometimes it can also even be, hey, oh my gosh, this thing that was once the epitome of my dream life, it's kind of coasting and we've actually outgrown that now. And that's really confusing because it used to be everything I ever wanted. And so the body does need to create quite a bit of discomfort to awaken that awareness within us. And not only the awareness, but the readiness to actually do something about it too. And so one of the questions I had for you, because, most of us will be sitting with discomfort or pain or feeling like dysfunction in our life, right? Whether that is like nothing's working or everything's so hard.
Mhm.
Um, for quite some time before, maybe we take action on it. And I know that you had tried quite a few different things. You'd worked with therapists and psychologists and done lots of self-awareness work as well. So what changed where, you got to the point where you were ready to take ownership? And even when we were back and forthing on those emails and you're like, like, I don't know if this is what I need, that you let yourself find out if it was what you needed. Like what changed that had you become ready?
Yeah. I mean, I think a lot of it was that I tried everything, and nothing was working. Um, and I mean, I think as a part of the taking personal responsibility, I don't think I even saw it that way. Like I didn't realize that was something I could do or needed to do.
Yeah.
Um, so part of it was actually just watching some more of your content, even
Mhm.
just in that stage where I was deciding whether to work with you
Mhm.
or not, and
Mhm.
just sort of listening to it and learning some little bits from it. But I think, to be honest, I didn't know if I was ready or, yeah, if it was going to work or anything was going to change. But what really sold me on you was that you had been through it, that you had been
Mm.
through something similar.
Mm.
And you had obviously found a way out of it. So,
Yeah. It's
yeah.
interesting though, my love, because when you say like, I think it was just that I tried everything.
someone else could say, yeah, but I've tried everything. Why would something else work? Like, why would me doing something differently? Why would me having the courage and the patience and the compassion with myself to say, I get to go again. Like, I get to continue to be curious. I get to, keep doing my best to help myself, even if I don't know if it's going to work or if it's going to look perfect or if it's going to tick every box, right? Um,
Yeah.
so,
Yeah, for sure. I mean, actually, I think part of it was um, another friend of mine was really unwell, and I watched him
mhm,
start to try different things and just continue on his journey to get well. And it sort of like reinvigorated my belief that, oh, maybe I could get
mhm,
well. Maybe it
mhm.
is possible for me.
Yeah,
And then I also knew that I've always believed in growth. Like I've always believed there's possibility for growth. So
yeah,
yeah, so just my need and want to grow anyways sort of sparked it for me as
yeah,
well.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Beautiful. And something within you that's been like so enjoyable to watch as a coach, because every woman will have a different vision and like different marker for where they want to take their inner work. You
Mm.
and I are on a similar page here when you sit here and you're like, well, I always want to grow. So there's always going to be something because if I'm being different and I'm like challenging myself,
Yeah.
there will be a hard conversation. There will be a reminder in my throat about that. And then for other women, rather, they just want to find the relationship, and then that's enough for them, which is amazing too, right? We're all really different, but something that's been so rewarding and enjoyable to watch about you and clients like you is we've connected through health, right? So fatigue was a huge issue that had you feeling like it was holding you back and you couldn't live life in the way that you wanted to. And then as we began to solve that, you were open to, oh my gosh, I can also improve the relationships with my family members. I can improve the relationships with my partner. Oh my gosh, I can actually even improve the feelings and the memories that I have based on past relationships that I've had.
Yeah.
I can call in brand new relationships as an adult, whether that is like friendships or yeah, whatever that might be. And to even now, like you're just in the early stages of like exploring another key area of life and what you might like that to look like. And it's like, those creative ideas are just starting to pop. And so, um, part of your inner work has looked like, yes, let's look at the dysfunction and what is, in the day to day just causing so much pain and challenge. But also, what's it look like to go after the life I want to live and work with any resistance or fear that comes up around that too. And in
Yeah.
all of this, probably the most consistent focus in our coaching is looking at finding, what are the subconscious patterns or programming that need to be looked at so you can become more of a match for what it is that you want. So like pulling them apart and understanding them and decoding them. Um, and then also one of the ways I explain it is like an engine, where, if you don't know how an engine works, you're probably not going to know which part needs to be tweaked when it's like breaking down or not functioning.
100%. Yeah.
Um, so I'm curious, and I know, with fatigue, I can remember that one of those subconscious patterns were there were certain people in your life where you're like, oh, I'm just not sure that they'd remember to think about me, or like they'd remember to prioritize me, or that they would know how to love me if I wasn't sick or I wasn't unwell. Um,
Yes.
are there any of these other subconscious patterns that have been like big aha moments where a blind spot has become really obvious that has been essential for you to see?
Yeah, absolutely. And that's the thing when you say blind spots, like so much of this I was completely blind to. And I mean, when you met me, I was reasonably self-aware, maybe you would say.
Absolutely.
Like I
Yeah,
wasn't like completely not self-aware.
I would
Um,
completely
but
agree.
yeah, there were massive blind spots, and some of them were the way less obvious relationships. Like, so, within my family, I had a definite, really difficult relationship at times with my mom, and that struggle and that stuff we worked on. It was just the more obvious, I guess. And then for some of my other family members, or my dad, say, who was very busy with work and things like that, that pattern I uncovered was that, oh, like if I was physically unwell or injured, it felt like I would get more love and care and attention at that time. Um,
Mm.
and that's something I never really knew was a pattern inside, and operating on what I was behaving then in my current life in and I just didn't know that connection. Like, I didn't realize that's what's going on internally, because
Yeah.
logically in my head I'm like, I'm not acting that way, like
Yeah,
I'm not
because you're not doing it
being
on purpose.
sick, or yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
or even like I didn't realize later I could look back on certain conversations and say, wow, like in that conversation, I'm very much telling my dad I'm really unwell, and this is and this is really like I'm really sore and this and that. And so like emphasizing all the ways in which I'm physically unwell.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas at another time, recently, I'll have a conversation with my dad, and maybe I've been through something really challenging that week, or tragic even.
Mm.
And I can have a lovely conversation with him in which I don't feel the need to tell him, how hard it's been and how unwell I am, or how much I'm sad at this time, or, I don't have to emphasize those parts. And I really never knew that was something I was subconsciously doing that whole time.
Yeah. And something I've noticed in you as your coach recently too is even a third stage. So it's like it was maybe all if we just like use really generalized language. Like the
Mm,
first stage of the subconscious pattern was maybe, oh, there's a push and an emphasis of the pain or the challenge or the difficulty. And then it shifted to, oh, I don't need to speak about those things anymore or have the same emphasis anymore. But what I've witnessed in you too of late is you can completely speak about whatever is going on and be super honest. And yeah, like there's
mm,
been some things happening in your life recently, like a lot of loss and grief that
mm,
have
mm,
felt incredibly challenging, and you've navigated it so beautifully and like raw and authentic and in such a sensitive way. And you've allowed your dad to see those parts of you, but
mm.
you've been able to hold them yourself. You're not needing to show them to get something in return.
Yeah, I absolutely think it has everything to do, well, it has everything to do with the number of tools you've given me, but most importantly, um, kind of shifting away from those moments in which it is like your inner child coming up, and
Mm,
you're seeking parental care or help, or comfort. Like, I now, because of all the work I've done through that, I now rely on myself for a lot of that. And
mhm,
so you can sort of hold yourself in that. And so then those conversations are no longer about sort of seeking that from that relationship or that other person, so from my partner or from my dad or from someone else. And that's really also been about the emotional expression work.
mm,
Was massive. So to go through something really tragic and sad and a loss and a grief, um, I mean, I actually just let myself feel all those feelings,
mm,
super uncomfortable, super painful feelings. And I didn't do it perfectly. I didn't, always let myself feel it. But one of the things you really helped with was saying, every 3 hours. So every three
mhm,
hours, take some time aside and let yourself feel the grief.
mhm,
And that was massive for me. That was really massive. And the thing about it is those feelings are or those emotions, they're so scary to think about experiencing. But once you do, you absolutely sort of become lighter. You let them go, you process them. So processing emotions fully has
mm,
definitely been one of the tools that has seen so much growth for me, so much progress, so much then being able to have a calm, like really clearly communicated conversation about very
mhm.
difficult things. because
Yeah.
I'm more emotionally regulated, I think.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I meet a lot of women and they want to skip ahead to like, how do I set the boundaries that stick and how do I follow through on them and not feel guilty and not get reactive and not be blunt and communicate in a calm way. And we can't get there until we have developed, these tools and these skills, but not just learning the tools and skills, actually using them, because you draw on your learned experience of emotional intelligence, and that emotion and energy is actually then shifted up and out of the body. And would
Yeah.
you say almost then it's like not a no-brainer, the communication and boundaries, but it's like nowhere near the amount of effort and hard work of when you're trying to do it, pushing up against those emotions you haven't felt?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Like I think we've said before, like the pain is in the resistance and the
Yeah.
challenge is in the resistance almost. So it's like, well, yeah, when you're trying to hold in all these things or these emotions, then trying to have easy conversations is impossible almost.
Mm.
And one thing I guess I just thought of though is that, even with the grief or the tragedy or things like that, it doesn't mean that I'm all of a sudden free from it and it's done. Like yesterday, I had a drive home. I went to visit some friends up north and had a long drive home.
Mm.
And I actually felt a little itch in my throat. And I thought, oh, something there. And I just sat with it for a moment and then the wave of grief came and I just
Mm.
cried and let it out and felt so much better afterwards. But it was like, okay, like grief doesn't just end, it doesn't have just this stop date and you're all perfect and better again. But the connection I have with my body now, where I will just let those emotions come up, be felt, and let go without trying to resist is massive. That was massive. And that's sort of something that definitely takes time. You can't do it overnight. You can't build that relationship with your body overnight. It took me time, a
Yeah.
lot of time.
Yeah. And what does it feel like to now have that relationship with your body and with yourself?
It feels unbelievable. Like it feels like how could I not have lived like this almost? Like it feels like a level of life that I never even could understand before,
Mm.
It's that powerful of a difference. And it opens up so many doors, so many opportunities. Like it literally feels like anything is possible. I can do anything, I can live the life I want. I feel so much more free. Like freedom is definitely something that comes to me all the time. It's like I feel free, I feel light, I feel grounded,
Mm.
and it's amazing.
And it's just, the exact opposite of what we're taught. So it's just like the rewiring of our brain and our neurology and our nervous system of like, what if I go into the emotion, I'm going to feel free. If I go into the emotion, I'm going to feel grounded. When for most of us, for an entire lifetime, we've been taught at all costs, just get away from that feeling.
Yes. Yes. Yeah, absolutely. And that wiring still comes up for me sometimes. Like,
Yeah.
oh, I don't want to feel that. You've seen, I think, when I come across a block again or like a resistance. And one of the most powerful things that you've taught me is to have compassion around that. It's
Mm.
okay. It's natural that your body wants you to stop from feeling, that we have been programmed that way for our entire
Yeah.
lives.
Yeah.
So actually having a bit of compassion and patience with yourself, that
Mm.
was a massive piece for me, for sure.
Something you've mentioned a couple of times in our conversation here is how, like, at the beginning, what you thought you needed is totally different to what you've needed.
Mhm.
And also maybe like how many blind spots were actually there was like totally different to what you thought as well. I feel like it could be really cool just as like a little snippet story if you shared. When I asked you if you'd be interested in coming and sharing your story on the podcast, you shared with me a perception you had the first time you watched a piece of content.
Oh, yes. Yeah. Yeah, that's so funny. gosh, and it's so true. Like, so yeah. So when I first started watching some of your content on, Instagram, that's the platform I'm on. I thought, oh, okay, of course, this woman has like she's in the stage of her life where she can afford to like go and spend some time at the beach and relaxing, and she can go have chais, but that's absolutely not possible for so many people. It's completely unrealistic. And
Mhm.
I literally thought it was just that, you're in this stage of life where you can do that. And yeah, one of the first things you taught me is all those rules we have around what's possible for us and what's not possible for us, and what choices we actually have within our control. It's completely like false, like we put so many barriers on, like, no, I couldn't possibly choose that for myself. Like there's all these things in the way of that, or, that's not possible for me. And just realizing that actually it is within my power to choose. But also too taking ownership that it's not meaning they're always going to be easy choices. You've
Mm.
chosen to take time for yourself to be on the beach.
And
And
one
yeah,
of the
probably
reasons,
say no to some things to do
yeah,
that.
and one of the reasons this came up, because I want you to share, is you made two very strategic decisions over the weekend so that you could have access to these things. And it would have been really easy for you to not make those decisions. And I think there would be women listening to this that wouldn't even realize the choices that you made are even an option. So are you open to sharing what they were as well?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So yeah, I was traveling north with my family, so my partner and stepkids, to go to a wedding, a family wedding. And I have friends on the Gold Coast, which was nearby or a couple hours away. And I thought, I haven't visited them in so long. I haven't seen them in ages. Maybe I should take this time and go and see them. And what it meant was I'd have to drive separately because I'd need my car up there. So literally have to go separately from my family, and after the wedding, I'd have to go leave them and go visit my friends, spend some time with them, and let them go home by themselves. And there's a few things that at home it would have been helpful for me to be home to help my partner with, maybe, so I had to sort of um, set aside that time for myself instead, sort of prioritize myself over
Yeah.
that.
Plus,
Um,
you travel for work and your partner works sort of different hours to you as well. So there's also that in the mix. It's not just like you have always with your family too.
No, exactly. He works really late shifts. I work early. So often, we're like ships passing in the night. So quality time with family is also
Mm.
a big value of mine. It felt like I was, I have to give up this family time, this closeness, this even the car ride,
Mhm.
because I'm driving separate. Um, but one of the things, as you know, after being sick for so long, I've been working on is I want to reconnect with friends. I want to expand those relationships. I think that's important even for my partnership as well with
Yes.
my relationship with my partner. It's so valuable to have different friendships as well. Yeah, so I'm so glad I chose that. And then, yeah, one of the other parts I think I was telling you was not only that, but after the wedding, because it was a busy couple of days, I decided that even though I was going to go visit my friends on the Gold Coast, I was actually going to arrive like 3 hours early so that I could just spend time for myself, go have a swim in the ocean, because that's like one of my best ways of just like calming and reconnecting. Um,
Mhm.
and yeah, just spend time with myself for a bit so that I could feel like I, wound down from all the excitement of family and wedding and all that, and could feel really good to go and catch up with my friends. So I just told them, yeah, I'll catch up at 4:30. And I arrived just after 2, and it was perfect.
So incredible. And these things can sound, for some women, they'll sound big because of the emotions that would come up,
Mm.
or the inner conflict that would come up in prioritizing themselves in that way. But for others, it would sound small of like, yeah, but like it's just a few hours, or, oh, like, no, we'll just go in the same car. It'll just be easier, and not prioritize themselves in this way that, as you said, have enormous ripple effects beyond going separate to the like wedding so that you can then connect with friends, or enormous ripple effects beyond the 3 hours to yourself, because the woman that returns as a stepmom and as a partner and is showing up in her profession that week, that month, but like if this is how we're living our life in an ongoing way, is completely different. And there's so much less then of the feeling of like, oh yeah, one day life will feel this way. One day it will be easier. One day it will feel exciting. One day insert here.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And one of the things that's great, like even just my relationship with my partner in that way, I get to come home and my cup is full and I've filled it myself. And you know what I mean? And he gets to see that. And yeah, we have a partnership in which we help each other as well. But the fact that I can go and sort of fill up my cup myself as well is massive, I think, for the relationship.
Yeah, a huge part of healing codependency, which is again a lot of blind spots that women aren't seeing, is they're just like unconsciously demanding and needing so much from this one person, when they have this massive power within themselves to work on whatever resistance or discomfort would come up if they were to go and create, we talk sometimes about a menu of different ways that they get to have their needs met or their values met, so that it's not this pressure cooker in just one relationship.
Yes, absolutely. Massive.
One of the last questions I wanted to ask you is, as I've had the privilege to work with you as you've been navigating, this loss and grief in more recent times, something that you've shared and that I've definitely gotten to witness is that it's really deepened your spirituality and your connection to, I think universe is the word that you use. And for
Yeah.
other women, it might be like God, consciousness. Did you want to share anything about that, or like explain what that's been like for you? Because again, it's like going against the conditioning of get away from pain and suffering at all costs. And oh, if I actually can embrace this, and if I can learn how to go into this, I actually get to come out the other side. And I get to come out the other side feeling more connected, perhaps, than what I did before this really difficult thing even happened as well.
Yeah, for sure. Um, yeah, I mean, when you ask about spirituality and things, I actually feel like I don't know if I have the words to describe it. And it's certainly even the start of a journey for me as well, because I would have said in the past, I'm very scientific and I'm not spiritual at all, or not, not religious or anything. Um, so yeah, I'm not sure I have much to say that would actually explain it, but in a way, it was just, that connection, further connection to my body and to pain as well, and to experiencing those deep emotions. It sort of guided me to see the universe differently and see the world differently,
Mm,
and the almost like create a greater appreciation for life, for like the amazing, like the miracle that is life, really, like that the
mm.
universe is operating under.
Yeah. Yeah.
And in that, the fact that pain and discomfort is a part of it and it's all a part of the whole, and that was massive for me. So it was like, I think I said once, sort of like the depths to which you can feel pain and discomfort it just equates to the heights you can reach in joy and love
Mhm.
and wonderful feelings. And you can't have one without the other.
Yeah.
And there's a beauty in that. There really is, like, and so there is almost a beauty in grief sometimes. And,
Yeah.
and it's just, it's opened up, I think, for me, like a wider range of those emotions I can feel. And because you think that's horrible, because it's like, oh, you can feel so much more pain, sort of, but you can feel so much more joy in a whole new way. And you also know you can survive the pain.
Yes. I was about to ask you, is part of it that you've been shown a deeper, like you can trust yourself of how capable you are in a far deeper way as well?
Massively. Yeah, massively. And again, that was a pattern and or something going on inside me that I didn't even realize,
Mm,
that lack of trust of
mhm,
myself, you know,
mhm.
or lack of trust that I will survive things, bad things, that I can survive, you know? And that's where you fear of feeling them then, you know? So then everything is protective, protective,
Yeah,
protective.
yeah,
So to go through it in a way in which you actually, like I said, with the grief, you let yourself feel it, you let yourself fully feel it, and you get to the other side, you know, in an emotional expression practice or something like that. It's like, wow, I can trust myself then that, you know, if something in the future happens that's very sad or, you know, or tragic or very difficult or challenging, I actually have the skills and I support myself in a way that I know I can get through it.
yeah. And that is what creates the possibility for us to step out of our comfort zone more and more and more and get more of the life that we want as well. Like the things that we want most in our heart and soul, but also
Mm,
terrify us, we can only go after them when we know that we can survive any
yeah.
difficulties that will be on that path. And I remember I think it was in our accountability chat, our Monday accountability chat, where I send the voice message reflection back to you and you'd shared around this grief and loss. And one of the reflections was that I could just hear this real maturing of your emotional intelligence. And sometimes what happens is when we go to the depths of that discomfort and that pain and that difficulty, is we allow ourselves to finally actually have that feeling of cracking or breaking or like collapsing into it, which is actually when it starts to lighten and get a lot easier. Um, but what we also get to discover there is, oh my gosh, you know, it can't possibly only be up to me, right?
Yes.
And
Yeah.
we actually get to move into our neurology expands, our nervous system expands, and we open to this idea of actually life is a co-creation with something way bigger than myself, whether that is God, universe, consciousness.
Yeah.
Um, and that is also part of, you know, when you talk about, oh, if I can go all the way over here in the discomfort, and have the somatic nervous system tools to know how to go through that and come out the other side, all of a
Yeah.
sudden I've expanded in my capability to hold pleasure and joy and fulfillment, and confidence and back myself. Um, but also now there's also this understanding of it's actually not all up to me. And, you know, I've
Mm,
even been reminded of this again
yeah.
recently as well, where I'm like, oh, I've been thinking like I have to solve all of this on my own when actually I can connect with my, you know, my spiritual beliefs that are bigger than me and ask for guidance and ask for help and not ask for that guidance and help of like, what am I doing wrong and what do I need to solve? But
Mm,
what's just like the breadcrumb or like the next step that feels exciting, almost believable, almost aligned?
yeah.
And the lightness and the groundedness that you've spoken about, then is the energy we take into that. So
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. Energy is a big thing, isn't it? It's
mm,
so yeah.
amazing. I feel like, you know, we've covered so much of what I planned to ask you just because, you know,
Yeah.
you've just opened your heart with us, which I'm so, so grateful for and so appreciative for.
Oh,
But I want
thank
to check, is there anything else that you wanted to add or that you wanted to share before we finish up?
I mean, I think that feels good. I wish I had the words to express just how valuable this work is and
Mm.
how far it can take you. And you know, the actually I was thinking earlier, I was like, Gemma has changed my life. But then I was like, that's actually not the right words. Gemma has helped me learn how to change my life.
100%.
And that's massive.
I love the saying you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make it drink. And all I do is give my clients the tools.
Mm,
They do the work. Like you have created all of this, and you could have easily not done it. You could have, sat in coaching sessions and like even intellectually like watched all the trainings and like taken notes and color coded them and highlighted them. That's not necessarily doing the work. Like, you're the only one that can let yourself somatically go into your body and feel these past hurts and these past pains, be honest about how subconscious patterns are running to keep you safe and protected, but are also keeping you stuck. Like, you have done all of that.
Yeah.
If you
It's definitely not easy either.
No.
Sometimes like it's definitely uncomfortable just for anyone thinking of doing it. Like, but it's so worth it. Like,
Yeah.
I just think, thank goodness I didn't like shy away at, the first bit of discomfort, because it's so worth it.
And I think that's, when people say, oh, she's so lucky, it's because of what she's been through to get what she's created. And it's available to anyone. What would you say, and the size of the reward is always so in line with, what we've been willing to see. It's no different to what we were talking about before of like the spectrum of like, if you can go to the depths of this discomfort, you get to access way more joy than you've ever experienced in your life before. And it's almost like, the ticket that you have to purchase and hand over at the gate before you can walk through the gate to get what you want.
Yeah.
If you were to trace back to Claire that we were emailing back and forth and you weren't sure, what would you say to her now?
Oh, I definitely know there isn't a way I could describe to her where you will be, but I just absolutely encourage her to go for it, that there is so much to gain in any aspect or every aspect of your life. It doesn't have to be that you're sick, or it doesn't even have to be that you feel like you're massively struggling to gain from what you can grow in this area. And the fact that, most of the growth has happened around getting past blind spot, it's like that's it. You won't even see what like, or how it can help you now, because there's blind spots. So it's hard, but just dive in and do it, and you won't regret it.
Amazing. I'm laughing because that's like so annoying, because we want the certainty that it's going to work, but that's the reason why we don't know it's going to work, and we can't know because we have to find those pieces first. So
yeah, and I wish I like, now that I've felt like this experience, and I know there's so much more to go as well, that I wish I could give it to everyone. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's exactly why I do this work. I want every woman to have it. Because it's possible. So
yeah, definitely.
Thank you so much. You have been so generous, not only in taking the time to have this conversation, but just really letting us into, what your inner work has looked like, what you've faced into, and just so many moments of wisdom that you've shared here. So thank you so much. I'm really grateful.
Oh, thanks for having me. It's really special.
Thank you for being here for this conversation, my love. If you would like more free resources, if you'd like to learn about my programs or coaching opportunities, you can find all of that information at my website, gemmahanley.com. I'll link it below in the show notes. And if you would like to connect daily, head over and find me on Instagram. My handle there is Gemma E. Hanley, and I reply to all of my DMs there personally. If you enjoyed this episode and found it valuable, please share it with someone. You never know who needs to hear one little thing to take their day from feeling stuck and heavy to light and free. See you on the next one.